Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream today. Ron Nicoletti along with Ashley Vayu. It is Twilight Friday. We're getting underway a little after 1 p.m. We're going to fast main track, and it's always good to see, Ashley, that we're on the turf today. The turf course listed as good.
Yeah, we had a few weeks here that it was kind of a little, I guess, depressing outside. We were off the turf for a while, but I think this week the weather's been pretty good overall, and we're going to start good, and maybe we'll even dry out as the day goes on.
Yeah, we got a nice 3-day week ahead, or what, like you would call the people out there that have real jobs, the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This is the beginning of our week here, and as I mentioned, we got $400,000, I believe, in the Rainbow Six a little later on, and that kicks off in race number 4 with this 9-race card, and should be a really fun week and weekend of racing here. So let's get right into the first race, which is 5 furlongs. These are maiden special weight state bred filly 2-year-olds. Had a couple of scratches of the 1 and 5, and I know you put a early pick 5 ticket together.
Yeah, as always, I kind of stick with my $36 play. Just use 2 horses in here. I thought about going 3 deep, but I looked into stats a little bit. I felt comfortable using the number 4, Flor de Plata, for Jorge Delgado, as well as the horse on the outside, the number 8, Devilette. Race 2, I decided to spread in here. I like the number 3, Morning Colors, and the 5, Choose to Be Happy. I still did use the morning line favorite, the number 2, Rosa Star, but her record, I think, leaves some things to be desired in my opinion. So I didn't want to be beat by her, but I think one of these other horses has a good shot. Race 3, I also used 3 horses in here. The number 2, Sweet Penelope. The number 3, High Glory, who I thought had a nice debut here back in June, as well as the number 8, Defendant. This one's out of the David Fox barn, who has shown some early speed, and I think that might be key in this spot as well. Race 4, just 2 horses in here. It's between the number 3, Baby Mo for Mark Cassey, and the 4, Better Be Swift. I've always been biased. I've been a big fan of Better Be Swift. This is my top pick in race 4. And then race 5, I round out the sequence with number 2, Rough Entry, who's my best bet on the day. Just a short price at 6 to 5. I looked at the field. I thought the only horse that maybe can get the job done over him is the horse directly to his outside, the number 3, Think About It.
Think About It. Yeah, I split those 2 with Doc Timber. We'll talk about that race in a little while. But this first race, if you're watching the board right now, the big favorite at 3 to 5 is that number 4, Flor de Plata, who's a daughter of Uncaptured, debuting for Jorge Delgado. String really of solid workouts showing over the track. They're pretty good with their 2-year-olds, about 25%. Chantal will be in the saddle.
And Chantal's had some really good success with Jorge Delgado, almost 30% here at Gulfstream Park. And I like the work patterns. You look at the pedigree. I thought the pedigree was okay. Jorge, his numbers are strong. We talk about this a lot. He's great first off the claim with 2-year-olds, maybe first-time starters, limited experience. But I will say this one schooled here just last week when we were actually working Ron and got to take a look at her. I thought she was on the bigger side. I thought she looked really good. There were a couple other schoolers out there, but she seemed to be kind of taking everything in. And physically, I liked the way she looked, so it was enough to give her the top spot.
Yeah, I sort of played the percentages in here, too. I did have the 5-horse who scratched in this race, Dear Mama Me, on top of my ticket. Not going to play this afternoon. So I scratched into the number 3, Bembe, who's a daughter of Garner Strait, debuting for Gustavo Delgado. He also has pretty good numbers with his 2-year-olds, about a 25% win average. Edgar Zayas, a leading rider, just by a couple, will be in the saddle this afternoon.
And when you talk about Gustavo Delgado, his number with first-time starters, 27% from 11, a small sample size, a $4.33 ROI. You mentioned good with 2-year-olds as well. And the works haven't been speedy. I think there's been a couple where this filly's shown some ability, and I don't think when you see Gustavo's horses, they necessarily work that fast.
And what about the number 8 horse? We both had some interest in it, and that's Devilette, is a daughter of Kozam, which I like, debuting for owner-trainer Dan Pita.
Well, now we're talking about fast works. I had a bullet here on July 2nd. I thought that was catching my eye enough in here. It was a $37,000 purchase back in October of 2020 at OBS. I just like the last 2 works.
Well, let's go to race number 2 this afternoon. It's a mile on the turf. These are claiming fillies, 3-year-olds, or fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up, non-winners of 2 in life, 35 down to 25. Had a scratching here of the number 4 horse. We both have the number 3, Morning Colors, on top. Matter of fact, we'll go back and show you Morning Colors. We're going to first show Morning Colors being hard held going up their back. That day was the number 5 horse. And just going to see, just a little bit, I'm going to say not ranked, but just, trying to run in there, and just kept doing that. If you follow it up, she just did not settle early on in that race, and I just thought with that performance, now you're going to see a turn for home. There's Rosa Star, who we mentioned in this race, who just coming off the turn here. You're going to see the number 5, Morning Colors, now still looking for racing room. Tips out finally and runs a good second behind that 3-1 Rosa Star last time out. So we'll see how this plays out today. I think with a cleaner trip, and it just looked like this horse needed that last race.
And with her out, she didn't settle early on, so that definitely took something away from her. And I don't think Luca Panici was really fighting her, but was just trying to get her to settle. Once she did, then there was no room. And you mentioned had to tip out. It still took a while for her to get in the clear. So I thought it was a good performance, and it was also big. It was her first time racing since December and first time for the new connection. So I love staying at this level. That was at 7.5. A little extra distance today shouldn't hurt her.
Yeah, Lisa Lewis, we mentioned this a lot. All our horses have been running exceptionally well. We both used the number 5 horse in second, Choose to Be Happy, who's stretching out around 2 turns. This one chased some really good fractions last time out of 23, 1 and 3 and 44 flat, finishing second, and actually finished second in front of a pair of next out winners against Simla going 5 last time out. Eddie Pleasure, Ed's blinkers. I just think with the blinkers, they're trying to throttle it down, but I still think horse is part of the pace today.
Just all the races since coming off that long layoff, we didn't see this one for over a year. They've all been strong races. I like that she's been able to be forwardly placed. We've seen that in 2 of her 3 starts. 2 starts back, though. She was kind of towards the back group in there. She was favored, made up ground late to finish second. She was beaten by a couple lengths, but she had to tip wide in there. So when you look at what she's been doing lately, she probably has some of the best races in this race in general.
Yeah, and Rosa Star, as you mentioned when you were putting your ticket together, I believe is 1 for 42. I believe something like that. I just couldn't pull the trigger. I mean, I like you. I didn't want to get beat in my exactor and try, but I just couldn't. This horse is going to have to win one before I put it on top.
Yeah, 1 for 42 career, and then the other thing that kind of made me kind of think differently a little bit is 0 for 27 over attempts here at Gulfstream Park, yet she's 16 for 27 in the money. So, and the other thing when you look at her races is she's got great Beyer speed figures. When you look at others in here, they're probably the best in the field, usually lower to mid-70s for her. So she's a good racehorse. She just doesn't seem to get that second win yet. So I didn't want to be beat by her like you said, but I just used her underneath.
Let's go to race number 3. This one is 5.5 furlongs maiden claiming fillies and mares. 3-year-olds and up, $12,500. We got our exacta flip-flop in here. We'll start with your horse, the 8 Defendant, who's turning back today to the 5.5 furlongs for Mr. David Falk.
I think it's really simple why I use this horse on top. Has early foot, has shown that in all the career starts, and now is just cutting back to the shortest distance in her career. I know last time out was probably one of her better performances. She's finished 4th, beaten by 2 3/4. So I'm just going to hope that the cutback can help her.
Yeah, I just flip-flop and put the number 3, High Glory, on top of my ticket. Is dropping to the 12.5 level. I like the fact that they're going to add blinkers this afternoon. Finished at 4-wide third. That was her 20 career debut. Going 3/4 of a mile for Joe Orsino. Victor LeBron, one of his go-to riders, handling, just the drop down in competition. But I can understand, with the speed of Defendant, and David Falk's boy, he's having a good meet too. And that's a daughter of Gone Astray. What about the number 2 horse in here, Sweet Penelope, who's dropping to this level on the main track today?
Well, last time she raced at this level and distance, I thought she had a nice third. She was beaten by 8.5, but the winner was 6.5 clear of the second place finisher. And then you saw Happy Interest came back to win next time out. So for me, it's just cutting back and getting back onto the dirt after those 2 turf efforts that they didn't really show too much for me.
Yeah, I keyed off that performance 3 starts back for trainer Diane Marici. Tried the turf in a couple. It hasn't worked out that well. With that said, that's the first 3. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'll have my Rainbow 6 ticket.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path. Round off first inside. Race. And a 1/4 mile to go, and he's 6 on top. It's last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back to Gulfstream tonight, not Gulfstream. Gulfstream today, Ron Nicoletti, Ashley Mayu. It's first day of the week, so you got to excuse me there for a second. So the 4th race is going to be 5 furlongs on the turf, maiden special weight, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. Let's take a look at my ticket. I got to believe people, when they're putting the tickets together, and probably rightly so, would maybe just try and single Baby Mo in this one from Mark Cassie, who's doing an incredible job with his runners here at the meeting. But I did use Better Be Swift and Ventriloquist. I'd hate to get beat in the opening leg. A rough entry for all the reasons you mentioned. Looks like the one to beat, but I use Dark Timber also. Race number 6. Got some interest in the 4 Numeric, who's got some breeding. This one is a half to our track and record holder at 5 furlongs, pay any price. Debuting for Dan Peter. And then you got Progression the rest of the way down. And in the 9th race, I just thought it was a wide open affair and wanted some coverage in there. So for me, 3 deep here in the opening leg, but I think all the money's going to go on the number 3 Baby Mo.
Yeah, I was torn here between the Mark Casse factor with the number 3 Baby Mo and the number 4 Better Be Swift. I did use Better Be Swift, but I had to use Baby Mo in that early pick 5. You just look at her races. She's had some time off in between each of her starts, but I thought her race 2 back here against maiden special weight competition Florida Breds finished a nice 4th, beaten by 2 lengths. There was a dead heat for first, and she's just going to be part of that early pace scenario, especially now cutting back to 5 furlongs.
Yeah, you've got to stand on that.
Yes, we can look at a stat here specifically for Mark Casse. We talk about him a lot, but this is a little different. I didn't want to talk about, we don't have 2-year-olds, so we got to look at something else. So I looked at maidens just route to sprint the past 5 years. So a really big sample size here of 209, but Mark Casse's 40 for 209 in terms of wins, so 19%. Almost just right in half, almost 47% in the money with $1.68 ROI there. So the numbers support this. We've been talking about the barn in general, just doing really great right now.
That's a big sampling, 209 horses, so definitely a big sampling. Number 4, Better Be Swift, proved to me that she could compete at this level when she stepped up from that second place finish at the $50,000 level, and at 50 level, we rallied to finish 3rd last time out for Kathleen. Kathleen, just all her horses are running exceptionally well. I believe when you're putting your ticket together, your Rainbow Six, you got to use both of these horses.
I think in the case of Better Be Swift, when they debuted her, I don't know if they didn't know what they really had to go with, but they debuted her at 25. She just missed by a head. Then she had some time off, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe she was entered here and supposed to race and acted up pretty bad in the paddock, and another reason for some time off. But in her last 2 races, she's stepped up once again in both of them. She's hit the board. Her numbers in terms of figures, they've improved a little bit too. So I'm giving her some confidence here now, making that 3rd start off the layoff.
Really interesting horse in here is the number 1 Ventriloquist, who's a daughter of Nyquist and a half-sister to a horse that's made $780,000, a multiple turf winner called Conquest Tsunami, debuting for Sappy Joseph Jr. But we mentioned this a couple of times. He's only 9% with his debut turf runners, but this one gets Lasix, gets the services of Edgar Zayas. One of these horses, I'm not going to get beat by this horse, thus using 3 on my Rainbow Six ticket.
Yeah, she looks well prepared for her debut. She has a ton of works. I think when you look at them, they're pretty solid, especially since she took a break, it looks like, between March and May. And I like her works at Palm Meadows from June forward. You mentioned the connections. I think that's a big thing, seeing Edgar ride for Sappy. That gives you some confidence in this spot. But, I just thought the other ones maybe had that experience edge.
Let's go to race number 5 this afternoon. This one's a 6 furlong sprint. Starter optional claimer for 3-year-olds and up, started for $35 or less, so the optional tag of $35,000 in here. And we mentioned number 2 Rough Entry, who's stepping up and stretching out today. You're going to see this one, the last race. We're going to pick it up when this one has to steady going out into the far turn. You're going to see number 5 horse that day, and just had one of those rough trips on the outside, had a steady back, and he has sort of lost momentum at a key juncture in the race. So I just thought that this horse, had a re-rally, for lack of a better term. We're going to pick it up a little later on at the 3/16 pole, where he draws off to win by 5 lengths. So he just was so impressive. You said, well, this horse had all that early trouble, then just explodes in the stretch.
I know. It's like we were all just waiting, kind of wondering what was going to happen. And to see that big of a performance, I think bodes well for him, and he's done that in his last 2. But I really think last time out on this little bit of a step up, he had to prove himself. You mentioned it was very different. If you look at the race 2 back, he just went to the front and had everything go his way, and it was smooth sailing. Now, he's mentioned he's going to stretch back out. 2 starts back, he wanted the 6 furlong distance, but in terms of the distance in general, it hasn't been that great for him. He's just 1 for 8, but I think the big thing to mention is his recent form is just so good. I think it's hard not to use him in here on the top spot.
Yeah, he's going to probably be tested a little bit for class, but he certainly is running very, very well. The number 1 Dark Timbers goes to Sappy Joseph Jr.'s barn after the claim, makes his first start since he drawn clear, and he defeated a couple of next out winners in that 25 maiden sprint. Now he's back in May. The barn is 26% with new claims. Edgar Zayas at the controls. And I like the fact that Safi, when he claims horses, he just doesn't put them right back. He gets them in his barn. He takes care of them. And I'm expecting Dark Timber to run very well today.
Hey, this is another one that's going to get a class test. He's just exiting that $25,000 maiden claimer, but he won really nice in that race. The runner-up came back to win next time out. For me, I used him a little further down than you just because we haven't seen him since late March, and I think this is a bit of a step up. But you've mentioned if anyone's going to be able to get a horse prepared off the layoff and first off the claim in a spot like this, it's Safi.
Well, the horse you have in second, I think, is going to sit the perfect trip in here. Let's think about it. Going to try and make it 2 in a row. He rallied late, defeated those 35 claimers at the distance. He's gelded son of uncaptured. The more speed up front, I think it is better for this horse.
I agree, and I think the thing that I used him a little bit over the number one Dark Timber is Dark Timber has the rail, has that early foot, may have to send because Rough Entry is certainly going to try to get out of the gate sharply as well. So in terms of think about it, I liked the race last time out, getting that second career win. It was on the dirt, and if you look at this horse, half of his tries and his efforts have been on the turf, and I don't think that's his best surface. His record reflects that, but kind of going 3/4 of a mile in the dirt seems to be his game.
Well, let's go to race number 6 this afternoon. It's 5 furlongs on the turf, maiden special weight fillies, 2-year-olds, and this is where our late pick 4 is going to start, and I know you have a ticket you want to show us.
Yeah, this first race kind of threw me for a loop. I do think this is probably the best maiden race on the card in terms of the field, the quality, and just the betting interest. I think this is a wide open event, so I went 3 deep in here. I used the number 4 Numeric as well as both Mark Casse runners, the number 5 Zen, the Irish bred filly, and the 7 Fulminate. Race 7, I also spread in here. I used 3 runners. The number 2 Ain't Wastin' Time is one of my top picks, the 5 Mead, and the 6 Omega Moon. I think he's been really consistent as of recent this year in 2021. Race 8, looking at the field, I actually took a stance in here. I know the 8 was probably the morning line favorite, probably the post time favorite. My top pick all along is the number 2 Pacific Princess, but I also used the number 5 Bimini. And then to wrap things up, I spread in here. I think the logicals are probably the number 6 Traceability and the 7 Dream of Anfield because there was a big scratch of the number 3 Uncle Jammo. But I had to throw a price in there, so I got a 15-1 shot in here of the number 8, the Captured Star.
Very affordable, $27 ticket. Now let's get back to this race number 6. As I mentioned, 5 furlongs on the turf. Turf is good if you're just joining us. These are filly 2-year-olds. And I did go with the number 4 Numeric on top, who's a half-sister to 5 furlong track record holder. Pay any price, debuting for owner-trainer Dan Peter. 5 useful workouts at Palm Meadows showing. I think you got to watch the tote action here. This barn is not known to have them, first-time starters, not their game to come out running, but I saw the breeding Pay Any Price. I mean, if you're talking about a hard-knocking campaigner, I think won 27 races here and holds the world record. I still believe, I know he holds the track record here at 5 furlongs on the turf.
I think it's interesting to note, too, Daniel Pita, when he had the winner last week, was very well-bred, and you've already touched upon it. Numeric has a great pedigree. I mean, if you look at the half-sibling Pay Any Price, certainly sprinting on the turf was that one's game, but even the mare herself, 1-5, she was 12 for 28 in her career and a stakes winner. I used her for second in here, but I'm going to be very curious to see what the betting public thinks of her, 9-2 on the morning line.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I actually put that in my analysis. You got to check the tote action. I don't know if they're going to see that breeding or, it's not, like I say, it's not a barn that that's known to fire at first asking. I didn't know what to do with this horse that you have on top. I have a little further down, but I just think there's so many horses that have a chance to run here, and this one from Mark Casse, as you mentioned, right on top of your ticket with Fulminate.
I've used Fulminate, I think, 1 or 2 other times, and then the races have been moved off the turf, so this one's been scratched a couple of times. It's a daughter of Get Stormy. She was an affordable purchase, $12,000 back in October, and you look at her workouts, I think there's a big contrast between her and Zen in the sense that Zen has a lot of turf workouts. Fulminate, not many as of recent. I did like some of her turf works back in May, but I did like her most recent breeze on July 10th, and the big thing is I know the connections really want her on the grass.
Yeah, and you mentioned Zen, really beautifully bred daughter of Zoffany, debuting for Mark. And if you look at the records, and going in today, Mark is 5 for 12, 42% with his freshman runners. She's been working consistently, as you touched on, up at Palm Meadows. And she's got MSC El Haramia in the saddle. So I started with that one. We've watched over the last few weeks. Every time there's another couple entry, it looks like the better price one wins. But I'm just really enamored with the breeding on this horse, and that is the number 5, Zen. The number 6 horse in here, used a little further down, is Frescia de Argento, who's bred for the turf, the daughter of Leon's Map, moves to the grass. Pair of in the money finishes on the main track for Mr. Antonio Sano. I just like the breeding on this horse.
Like the pedigree. I think the 2 races so far under her belt, they've both been good. They haven't been stellar, but there's going to be a surface switch. And you mentioned the pedigree. This is a full sister to Panerea, who also, races here at Gulfstream Park. And that one won here sprinting earlier this spring-summer meet and was sprinting on the turf. So maybe it kind of runs in the family there, getting this one on the grass.
And as we mentioned, trained by Antonio Sano. Race number 7, I should say. 7 furlongs. These are claimers. 3 and up, $10,000 down to $8,000. And big favorite in here, I think. Well, who's the morning line favorite? It's going to be Ain't Wasting Time, I would believe in you. By the way, there was a scratch of the 4 Mustang Cap, but Pete Aiello will be up in just a couple of moments to give you all the scratches and stuff that you need in here. Race number 7, as I mentioned, 7 on the grass, claimers 3 and up, 10 down to 8. We're going to show you, I'm going to go back and show you 8 Wasting Time's last race. We're going to pick it up at the top of the lane when this one has the lead but just can't hold off the 6-5 favorite in this race, Gangley. I just thought it was a really good performance by this horse. You would think that the big favorite was going to go by 6-5 at any moment, but this one fought bravely right to the wire and just gets nailed late by a horse that everyone was expecting to win, and I just thought that was a pretty game performance.
I thought it was a good performance. It was also starter allowance competition, now in for the $10,000 tag today. When you see this Colts races went in for a tag in these claiming races, I mean, pretty competitive. I think if you look at those 4 races prior to that, had 3 wins out of those 4 starts. It's just been really incredible for him. I know one was a disqualification, but the other thing is he does have experience at the 7 furlong distance. I know that win came at Tampa, and he was actually disqualified there in the second start. So he's almost got 2 wins at the distance, but he has that ability to just sit off the pace as well, which I think is key.
The number 6, Omega Moon, is another one turning back to 7/8 of a mile. You have right on top of your ticket. Responded in that first race after the claim by Armando Armando de la Cerda with that condition claiming victory going a mile. Emisiel Jaramillo in the saddle.
When you look at his races, he's had some gaps in kind of his training or just his races in general, or he's been on the shelf for a couple of months, but he seems to be in a good rhythm. He's kind of been consistently racing since the end of 2020, and he was against tougher competition, and now he's in for the claiming ranks here. I liked his win last time out. It was pretty decisive. It was going a mile, and that was the other thing here. I like that his last couple of races have been at a mile. Now he's going to make that slight cut back.
I didn't know what to do with the number 7 horse in here. Tangle Weber was given some time off after you look at its last race. The wheels came off when facing similar, was up at Tampa. But the key is Kathleen O'Connell. You just look at her record, the horse is returning from a layoff of 61 to 100 days, 80 days. She's over 20%. She's closer to 25%. And boy, all her horses have been running exceptionally well. So I didn't want to get beat by this horse. I'm not sure that they can beat 8 Wasting Time or Omega Moon. We could certainly be on the Try or Super.
No, I looked at this horse in terms of maybe putting this one for 4th in here just to have this one kind of somewhere, because I do think this horse has a big shot. You mentioned that win 2 starts back. It's another one that showed early pace and very quick for 7 furlongs at Tampa against $5,000 claimers. I mean, the half went in 44-4, and this was your pace setter who just drew clear, put away the field. There is a little bit of inconsistency, though, when you look at the races this year. So the little bit of a layoff is a question, but you've mentioned the conditioner. She knows how to get them ready.
And what about the number 5 horse in here? Horse I used a little further down, and that is Mead.
I just think when you look at Mead's races, they've been against tougher in those last couple. I didn't like the race last time out, but when you look at the 3 starts before that, even the 4 starts before that, it's been a really nice runner here on the main track and simply loves it here at Gulfstream Park. 7 for 10 in the money over the dirt course here. So I think when you look at his figures, he figures to be part of this as well.
Let's go to race 8, 1 mile allowance optional claimer. These are state-bred fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. The optional tag, 12.5. Did have a big scratch in here of the morning line favorite, the number 8, Tis Possible Deer. I bumped up the horse that you had on top all along, and that's Pacific Princess, who's hoping to break today trouble-free. Broke inward at the start, but ran a good second for Chantel and Roger Lauren.
She made her 2021 debut, is only against $25,000 maiden claimers, but when you look at the competition she's faced in her last 3, consistently tough competition. She's hit the board in all of those starts, and the horse that beat her last time out, I know you're a big fan of, Rest of the Story. That was going the mile distance, and for her, that was her first time going a mile on the dirt. The only other time that she went a mile was in her debut on the turf, and that was a while back. So I think kind of the stretch out, she might have needed a race kind of at that distance. So I loved her in this spot today all along. just getting that second start at a mile.
Well, I never knew what to do with these horses. I'm talking about the three nationalists who, stepping up the competition after drawing clear, and just walloped the field of 6,250 claimers, won that by over 8 lengths. Jorge Delgado got Jose Morelos in the saddle today. Chantal's going to stick with Pacific Princess. But I just don't know what to do with these type of horses. You put them on your ticket, they run bad. You don't put them on your ticket, they win for fun again.
Yeah, I had no clue either. I'm glad you feel the same way. I mean, this horse has done a lot of good things here at Gulfstream Park. All the career wins she's won here over the surface. And you mentioned a big winner last time out, won with authority, but it was lesser competition. So I don't know how she fares at this level. And when you look at her throughout her career, she's not really tackled this competition often. She did kind of try this earlier in February, and she only fared a fourth, and she was kind of a distant fourth.
Well, the number 5, Bimini, is dropping a notch after vying for the lead and holding on to finish third against those 16 starter optional claimers going a mile. 4, Rohan Crichton, who a guy that certainly always I give a second look to. His horses always run well. And this one, the drop, I think will help.
I think the drop will help definitely. Won 3 starts back at the mile. Has been really consistent at today's distance. A 6-time winner here. She's got 7 wins in her career. And the big thing is when you look at the race, 2 starts back, Laffy and Free to Fly, they are hard-knocking horses. Both of them are kind of speedy as well. So connections are also just ones you can't ignore here at Gulfstream.
Well, let's go to the final race on the Twilight Friday card. About 7 1/2 furlongs on the turf. Maiden Claimers 3 and up, 12-5. Did have a scratch in the body of the 3, so just note that the number 12 is going to get in and run in race number 9. And a big scratch that it was. Uncle Gemmo, I thought, was absolutely the one to beat. So I don't know about you, but I bumped up Dream of Anfield. He's going to try and stretch his speed to the wire after opening and relinquishing that 3-lane lead against Simler going a mile. I think the turn back to 7.5. It's handicapping 101. Looks like it'll help this horse.
Slight turn back and the scratch of Uncle Jammo because Uncle Jammo was taking a drop in class and just was also a speedy runner as well. So Dream of Anfield, I'm kind of scared if this one makes the lead all by himself. He just might say goodbye from the beginning. I know he tried to do that last time out and tired, but a little bit of difference in the distance, and that might make the difference.
Traceability is dropping a notch after returning from 11-month layoff. And this horse, if you remember the last race, was taking money all the time. And I'm going, how could this horse be taking that much money off that a long layoff? Finished 4th, actually went off the favorite that day against the 16 maidens going a mile. I don't know if last time was the day that this horse was the one to bet. Just kept taking steady money. Joe Cantonese, the trainer, who's got Jonathan Gonzalez handling the second race off the bench today.
I think when you look at traceability prior to that long layoff, I think people might have seen, 2 out of those 3 efforts last year around this time, they were really solid. But I think, at least us, when we saw that, we said, okay, but those were at the $32,000 and the $40,000 level. Now comes back off a long layoff in for 16. We kind of missed this horse in a lot of ways, but it was a good effort, probably needed the start. So when you look at him, he's got some back class on him, has some good races, and now you have to think he's going to improve.
I used the number 2, Remembador, who wheels back, and as the 2 horse at the showing improved speed when dropping to this level and going back to the turf. It looks like they found a spot for this horse. Always enamored with some speed. Did this one get in the duel with Dream of Anfield and maybe set it up for one of the closers in the race?
I think he could lock up. I still think Dream of Anfield, look at those races. This one actually might be a little bit quicker on paper. So for me, Remador, I don't know, tired last time out as well and went off at 7-1. Prior to that dirt start was really kind of outclassed there. So I'll need to see more.
You see this guy making faces?
Yeah, I must be the general manager of Gulfstream Park.
Well, that's how we see the 9-race card, but we're not done yet. We're going to have our lightning round. Billy Badgett, of course, he always picks on us here. And as we do each and every Friday, we're going to show you the jock and trainer standings. Of course, I will forget the trainer part, but Edgard's eyes, and they are close. That's what I mentioned a little earlier on. And MSL Aramillo, who had, I think, a 3 or 2 win Sunday, is just knocking on the door. And we mentioned this all this time. These horses, Edwin, of course, has been on the sidelines. Top 5. Great riders. Paco Lopez don't count because he left and went to New Jersey.
Yeah, he abandoned us. He went to New Jersey. We don't need to worry about him. But you look at the other 4, there's kind of a couple of races going on. You mentioned for the top spot and then for third. I mean, Miguel Vasquez just 1 win behind Edwin. I would have to think he's going to get it since Edwin's going to be on the shelf for a bit. So the race is still definitely on in terms of jockeys. But trainers, I don't think so much, Ron. I
Well,
don't think this is a race at all right
I
now.
put a rubber band on my finger, so I usually go right by it. But 49, 17, 17, 17. You know, take Safi out of the equation, boy, and it's really a tough race for second. So, and there's some great trainers: Antonio Sano, Carlos David, Jorge Delgado, Mark Cassie, right down the line. Safi started off the spring summer meet with like a house on fire. He sort of leveled off a little bit now, but he just got that big lead. So, just like to show you that each and every week, and you know, it's a little silly to show you the trainer standings, but some people have been coming here for the first time, might want to bet him. How about our buddy Joel Rosario, one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet, one of the nicest jockeys. He won the ESPY for best jockey.
He did, and I want to do my homework because I feel like he's won just about everything and what he hasn't won in his career. And I know him and Johnny V, they still have not won the Preakness at our sister track, but he's won the Classic, he's won the Pegasus aboard Nick's Go. He's kind of just done it all in his career.
Yeah, I think he's got over $13 million this year, and there's never not a smile on his face, and always glad to see him, and so congratulations to him. I want to go back and show you the performance in the Danger Beach last time out, and I just thought our old buddy Noble Drama, who I thought would run well in here. You see those times they were adjusted a little bit. It wasn't as fast as that thought it would be, but the number one horse, Noble Drama, how game is this horse to come from the clouds to win the Danger Beach?
He's extremely game, and he's fun to follow. You know, his win prior to this, he had to really work for it and got the job done. And then I think in some ways, kind of same level in a sense, but also he had to face some really nice horses. We didn't see the same Jesus' team that we've seen before in this spot. I know he was really well respected in that race, but he faced some quality horses, and he just keeps on winning.
Yeah, and this is it's sort of melancholy for me. I wanted to just, they're doing a great thing up at Naira, and they've completed a lounge, and it's in honor of Carmen M. Barrera, Horseman's Lounge up at Saratoga. If you know Carmen, it was to love her. She was one of the nicest people in the world. Every time I went up to Saratoga, New York, she bent over backwards to help me out. She's loved by everyone, so they did a great thing. She just passed unexpectedly. She's a young and beautiful woman, and now they named this lounge after her, and just, a real good friend of mine, and I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, she was a longtime employee of Naira. I think she started in the late 70s and was always kind of involved in racing. I know family ties to Affirmed and some other runners, but she was the longtime director of horseman relations up there.
Yeah, her dad, Laz Barrera, so it's certainly a name synonymous with racing New York, but just a great person, and I just had to point that out. So that is the lightning round. We've got 9 races this afternoon. Tomorrow we got 12. We got stakes action tomorrow. I know you'll be joining me all day.
All day tomorrow, long day ahead.